Hey guys, welcome. So this week we're going to talk about adding on to, well, this is our second video of the week. We're going to talk about adding on from what we learned the last time. It'll be just kind of a refresher, but we'll get into building out the router, building out the controller, and so forth. And then things will make a little bit more sense. The concept is, last week, the first week when we did the APIs, is we primarily took an array, built it, showed how we could get that data back in an array. We talked about how we can post new messages and so forth. And we were just, like when we'd run the put and the post, it was just kind of be on the fly. So it wasn't ever like being modified to the database. So that's what we're looking to do now, is we're looking to make those connect to the database and actually save stuff to it. So that's what we're looking to accomplish today. So we're going to run the database locally. We're not looking about doing it in the cloud. That'll be other courses coming up, other classes, weeks or whatever. So first and foremost, make sure that you have pgadmin. This is the tool that we'll be using to create our database tables. So if you don't have it, go to pgadmin.org, download it. Whether you're using a Mac or PC, download that version. Other thing is, I showed you guys last week how to download Postgres. So, go out to Postgres. And so you have this. You want to make sure to download this for whatever version that you're on. Once you do have Postgres, you'll have a window like this. I'm not going to walk through the complete thing. You could set whatever server you want to call it, where your library is at. Default is port is 5432. And then you'll get a database that you could create. This is locally, so you can call it anything. You'll have a new button here called Initialize, and you'll click on Initialize, and it'll automatically turn into this where it has start, stop, and these are my databases I have in place. So that's pretty much it from the database standpoint of it. Getting it set up. But once you get into it, here's pgadmin. This is my cloud base. So this is my local copy. So this is under local. And so I think I already have a schema set up. So what you want to do is you'll have whatever you called it. I call it JCmin02. You'll have a schema set up. Schema is the higher level of the database. You'll scroll down and you'll see a list of tables. And I don't think we have anything in place, it looks like. All right, we don't have anything in place. Let's see. Postgres, did we have anything out here? Thought we did. We don't. That's fine. Let's create something then. So in this case, we're going to create for the movies. So I'm going to right click and do create table, just like MySQL. I'm going to call it something. I'm just going to call it movies. I'm just going to keep owner as is, columns. This is where you can create your columns at. In this case, I'll call it ID. We need to have a movie ID as we list it. I'll make an integer. There we go, integer. Say it's not null. Say it's the primary key. So it always has to have a value to it. Let's see what else. We will also create the movie name. So we'll say name. So what's the name of the movie? Varchar. So this is where it's a little bit different. So they don't have a varchar like we use in MySQL. So we have to use a character variant. Don't use this one right here because it'll get you in trouble. It's got me in trouble. And then the length of it, we'll just say 50. Okay. I think that's all we had right now. We just had an ID and a movie. That's it. But we'll add one more column here. We'll say, does it have a rating? Like rating R or whatever. So we'll say rating, and we'll do a char. And it's either going to be PG, whatever. Maybe it doesn't allow me to do char. So let's play and save. We'll do varying, and we'll just make it a 3. All right, we'll start with that. As far as this right here, we don't need to put any constraints or anything like that in place. And we could hit, and they don't have to be not null for now. We'll just hit save. We'll want to test it first to make sure it works. Foremost, we want to put some data in there. So, give me a moment to how I'm doing here. All right. So let's right click on it, and we will choose a P-SQL tool. Oh, wrong one. It's query tool. That'll pull you into a command line. Don't want that. So do this and do query tool. All right, that's what we want. So we can say select, which we shouldn't have anything from movies. On it, nothing, because we have nothing there. So what we're going to do is we're going to insert into the table, into movies table. Now, what we didn't do is we could set up the ID to be automatically, but we're going to do that. We're not going to do that now. We're just going to have it manually for now. So we're going to say ID, name, and rating. And we're going to have values. And the values will have 1. We'll call it hangover. And then the last one we'll say R. So let's see if that works. So I'll highlight it, run it. It's successfully added. So let's see if it works. So let's query it. Boom. Now let's add another one real quick. So we'll do number 2. And we will do, what's a new one? Geez, I believe I can't remember a movie. What's a good movie? All right, so we'll say King Kong, and we'll just say PG. And we'll add that data. All right, perfect. So now we should have 2 records for now. All right, let's just add one more. I guess 3 records. And we will say, I can't believe I can't think of any movies off the top of my head. Looking for my phone. Oh, there it is. It's buried. Trying to think of the last movie I looked at. Jeez. Got out the Netflix. All right. Jeez, I can't believe I don't remember this movie stuff. All right. Boom. We will go with Outlaws. That's a new movie that popped up here on my thing. Boom. Outlaws it is. All right. Don't know what that is. And we'll just say it's PG. They probably are. So let's add that. All right. So now we have 3 movies listed. Perfect. That's what we needed. We needed to be able to have some data added to it. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to open up Visual Studios. So we're going to create a new window. Like I said, we're going to start from scratch all over as if we never did this before. Let's do this. All right, so API. Perfect. All right, so let's run terminal. And so now what we're going to do here is we're just going to add some of our traditional things that we need to get installed. So let's move this up here. And let's say, remember, so npm init. Make sure you have it hooked up to your GitHub. We already talked about that last time. I'm not going to do it this time, but that would help. To initialize, we need to install Express, and that'll be a save. We need to install Nodemon. We need to install PG for Postgres. I think that's it for now. All right, so we have our things, and now we need to set up our directory the way that we want it. So I don't know what's going on with my eyes, but man, things are blurry right now. All right, so we need to set up our folder. So our folder is source, and then remember, right click underneath it, create a new folder, and this new folder will be called movies. All right, perfect. And then under movies, we'll set our controller. So we'll have a new file called controller. And then we'll have another folder, called routers.js. .js. And then we need a queries table, same thing. We also need, if we come up with a package, we have index and we call it server, so we're just going to change that around. Server, save it, yes. Let's see here. Let's create a file called server.js. All right, so now we have something going here. So we can start coding our server.js file because we've already did this once. So we'll set up our const express. Without it, we'll be kind of dead in the water. Equals express. All right. Then we have our constant. Let's see. We have our constant app equals express, and then we could do port equals 6003. I think it was 2 last time. Like that. Why is that not like in there? Const. Oh, be nice if I could spell. Perfect. All right. Then we need to do our app.use. So we'll do app.use. And sorry, guys, my vision is jacked up today. So we'll do app.use, and we'll do express, JSON, close brackets. There we go. Then before we do anything, we need to do app.listen, and we'll do port, comma, open close brackets, console.log, running port, whatever. There we go. All right. Then we can say app.get / like that, comma, request, response, callback feature. We have that right there. We can have response.send. We're just going to do what we did last time. We'll just say hello world. So make sure it works. I think that's it for now. Sure, save it. I'm going to put auto save on. So let's do node server.js. Just running on port. Oh boy. So let's do local host. All right, so that works because we don't have a route set up yet. All right, so that should be good for now. All right, so the next thing that we want to do is I'm just going to stop this real quick. Oops, Control C. All right, clear. Remember if we do nomon.server.js, why couldn't I find nomon? Did I not install that? Sudo npm I nomon. Oh, what? I don't even know. I don't care. We'll just do node.js for now. Well, I'm trying to figure out what's going on. All right, so first and foremost, we'll start with our routes. All right, so within routes here, we'll do constant. We'll call it a router. So a router is what it is. It's a router. It tells it where to go. We'll say equals requires. Sorry, my head's being cut off here. Equals require express. Actually, require express. I'll try in a second here. Because, yeah, require. I'll make sure I made a mistake here. All right, so we have requires, and then we can say constant, and we can say router equals router, the one that we have up in place. Up there, we could call it and declare it. So we declared it here. We're saying, hey, it's going to equal to this, and we could call it here. Then we're going to set up a route here. We're going to say router.get open close bracket. So we automatically have this in place. Go comma. We'll do a request, a response, sorry, a callback feature. Then we'll do the same thing. So we'll respond, send something, and we'll say using API route. Yeah, that works. Semicolon here. Now, what you have to do is you have to export anything that you're using. So we're exporting a router. Reason being, it's so when we're interfacing with each of these different libraries and so forth, we need to make sure that they're able to see them. So that module.export is required on each of those. Okay, so just a reminder. Let's see. I think that's it for now. We need to go into the database and we didn't even put database in here. So let's do a new file. db.js. Boom. So that would be important. So let's say constant pull equals require. We'll put PG because we're using Postgres. And we'll do dot pull. There we go. And then we'll do constant pull equals new pull, so new object, open close, and then our semicolon there. And then you want to specify the username. That's that. Yours may be different locally. Host is a local host. I think that's right. We'll find out if it's wrong. Database. In this case, mine's HTML 002, and that's only because where is she at? No, not there. Right here. Username should be the same as that. So username should be the same as the database. And then the port is 5432. That's by default. Comma, we'll put a semicolon here. Same thing, we'll do module.exports equals bool. That's it. So what we're doing here is we're just referencing our database. This is locally. If we were doing it in the cloud, it would be a different address altogether. So I think we're good there. So let's close out of that. Next thing that we need to do is build our controller. So start off here and do a constant pull equals require. Now all we need to do is we need to connect to our database. So if you do // now you see we're at the movies level, and we can say, oh, okay, we need to do ... And now you can see, do we see database? Yeah, right there. So we can say database. Now it says, oh, guess what? We can access it. Perfect. Now what we're going to do is set up kind of like a function. We're going to say get movies equals request and response. Okay. And then we're going to grab that pool that we grabbed and query it. So we're going to do a query statement here. So we're going to say select. Now what we're going to do is we'll get away from doing it like this. Well, later we'll talk about that. For now, let's just go from there. So select everything from movies. That's the name of our table. We can say comma, error message, results. Okay. Then we could do / bracket. And then we can come down and say, hey, if there's an error message, throw an error message. Okay, throw one. Look for the response status 200, which is okay. There we go. JSON results rows. There we go. All right, so we close out there, and it looks like we're missing. Okay, there's the bracket. So we're missing some. Then we're going to do an export. Then we're going to export our controller. So anytime we add a controller, we have to export it. So if we add another controller, we have to do the same thing down here. Actually, it's a comma. Perfect. All right, so now we got our controller built. I don't think we have queries in place yet, and we will get those in place in due time. But for now, for trying to accomplish, it should be fine. Trying to think here, what do we need to do? I think we need to go back to server and then go back to routes. I'm trying to think. Let's do this. So let's go to server. All right, so we have constant express, require express. Okay, so let's do this where it says that we're going to come down here and say constant, and we're going to name our route. So we'll call it movie routes equals require, and we'll say source movies. See where it says movies, and then we'll say routes. So it's going to pick up that route directory, location, mapping, whatever. All right, so we have our map there. We got our JSON. I'm trying to think. Okay, so we have our app.get right here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to come down here and say app.use, and we have to specify what we're trying to use. So we're going to create the path that we want it to be called. We're going to say it's going to be called API /v1 for version 1 / movies. Okay, that's what we're going to say the mapping is. And then we're going to do comma, and then we're going to pass what's the name of that route. So we call it movie routes right there. So it's going to be able to access that route. We already have that port in place. So it's accessing the route that we put in place, and this is going over to the route. So you see how everything's kind of generating together slowly, but getting there. Now we need to go over to routes, and we need to make some changes here. So we have the constant route here, and we have the aspect right here. But what we don't have is the relationship. So let's do constant controller equals require. And what we could do here is we have to specify the name of the controller. Um, so controller, and that's it. So that way it allows us to reference the controller. Let me see if I did something wrong. Yeah. So it allows us to reference where that controller is at. Let's see what else am I missing. Okay. So let's do this here. Oops, not that. So okay, like we have get that, and that's our tester. I'm actually going to comment that out for now because that was just a. And we're actually put a real route in here. So what we'll do here is we'll say router dot get, same thing, / so we allow it to be whatever it's API / v1 / whatever. That's what we set it up to be, comma. We can say controller, and then we can say get. So you notice right here, automatically grabs that function that we created. It gets the movies. When it gets the movies, it calls a controller and so forth. And yeah, that's it. So let's kind of recap what we did here because we kind of did a lot of stuff, to be honest with you. So we went into the controller. Controller makes a call to the database, which comes over here and says, hey, where you at? Notice this if it works. It connects to the database and says, okay, now I can make a call to the database, right? And then it sets up this function and says, okay, my function is called get movies. We're going to set it a request, and we want to receive a response back. And that's what it's doing, sending a request. And the request we're sending, we're saying select everything from the movies. And we know that if we do that, we're going to get all this data. We should, right? So we get the data. If there's an error, throw an error. We're looking for a 200 status. So what we're doing here is we're exporting that function out in the controller, so that way other properties can access it. Later on, we'll have stuff in queries, but for now, whatever. Routes, these what controls the routes, the direction that we're going. And in our server, we always have to have our route out here that we're using. So anytime that we're running a new route, we have to have it out here. So let's see if this works. Node server.js. Right, so that says it's running. Let's see if we can access it. So let's see if we can access it. All right, so let's do this. Let's do localhost. We'd see API version 1 movies. Right. So look at that. It works. So let me, if I can pull it up in Postman. Bear with me. Yes, send a request. So we'll do a new. What the heck is going on here? No, that's it. So new HTTP request. So we'll copy this right here and run it. And look at that. We have the information right on target. So it did work perfectly. So it was able to get all that information like it was able to get out here. We could easily do this information. So this worked out really well. So it showed that it actually connected to the database and pulled data back on the screen as we expected it to. And it pulled it back in here. So this is perfect. So lesson 1, this is exciting. We created an API and we added data to a database, and we did a GET response, and we're able to pull back data. How exciting is this? Now, this is the right way to write programming code that allows you to connect to a database. Now, in our next video, we're going to learn how to use the put command. So we're going to learn how to modify what we have. We're going to talk about how to post, how to create a new message. So basically do an insert. And before you know it, we'll be up and running, and we'll add more stuff and build onto the query section and running our services and connecting to our website and all kind of stuff. So this is fascinating. So hopefully I got a good lesson out of this. Thanks for watching, guys, and we will talk soon. Good job.